now, focus on climate change and the recent UN report in a startling indicator of how close we may be to irreversible global climate change. The World Meteorological Organization has come out with its latest findings, which indicate that global temperatures will surge to record levels in the next 5 years. In fact, the next 5-year period as a whole will be the warmest on record, and some of the findings say that between 2023 and 2027, the temperatures near the Earth's surface could be up to 1.8 degrees Celsius higher than the 1850-1900 average, which is the base temperatures. And this is very, very important because an increase in global temperatures above 1.5 degrees will have an adverse impact with related losses and damages. Well, to talk more about this latest report and what it means for us, we're now joined by Arunabha Ghosh, founder CEO of the Council on Energy, Environment and Water, Dr. D.S. Pai, senior scientist, IMD Delhi, and also Ashwini Hingne, associate director, World Resources Institute, India. Arunabha Ghosh, first to you, for our viewers, if you can explain, why this report is so worrying and what this means going forward.
Thank you, Gargi. Yes, this is certainly worrying. It is in line with what has been expected, but of course, each round of the reports actually highlights the degree of challenges that we are facing a lot more. As you yourself highlighted, that the estimations now coming out from the World Meteorological Organization is that over the next 5 years, the temperatures could be above the pre-industrial levels, basically 1850 to 1900, by up to 1.8 degrees. Now, the issue is not, one might say that 1.8 degrees is okay, we manage with much larger variations of temperature, but I want the viewers to understand that this is 1.8 degrees or as global average surface temperatures. What that means is that in certain areas, particularly within the tropics, actually temperature rises could be even more. In particularly heat-stressed areas such as India, that could have further impact in terms of heat waves. It then begins to have impact in terms of crop yield. Just like human bodies, crops also grow optimally at a certain temperature range. Beyond that, you have advanced maturity of the crops, you have reduced yield. It reduces the milk yield of cattle. So you begin to get a series of economic impacts over and above just feeling hot. And I think it's very important that we now as a society begin to understand that this is just not a one-off thing, that this is what nonlinear climate risk is all about, that year upon year is going to get worse than what we had in the past. And we've got to become much more resilient against this changing climate.
Right. Dr. Pai, so now going forward, it's a matter of adjusting. It's a matter of preparing for this, because it seems that this is a foregone, reality now that we're going to have to live with.
Yeah, exactly. So as the report said that, last 5 years, the temperature were almost last 8 years were the warmest years, and all were almost nearly 1 degree centigrade above the pre-industrial period, with 2016 was the warmest with 1.25. Now, when you compare with the next 5 years, they are going to be much warmer than the previous 5 years. So that's the important thing. And it is also important that this year or next year can be warmest of the so far in the record. So that is important. And as a result, we also have to improve our early warning system, and also to understand how these temperatures will impact on our monsoon and other weather patterns.
Right. In fact, we're already seeing, extreme temperatures and extreme weather occurrences. And in fact, this year it's been extremely, different. We've had rains when we don't usually have them. And the May, in fact, was not so hot at the start of it, at least here in Delhi. And that's also not been very good for farmers and the, kind of a heavy torrential rainfall. We had Ashwini Hingne. So now, in your view, what steps do we need to take? And, Arunabha spoke briefly about the impact this could have on India with the increasing temperatures. If you could just elaborate more on that.
Sure. So basically, like the other panelists have said, the temperatures have been rising and are expected to rise unabated if we don't do anything. So on the one hand, we definitely do need to globally reduce our emissions. This will mean systemic change in the way we produce power, the way we produce and manufacture goods, and the way we consume different products, right, and live our lives. India particularly has had an ambitious target and is taking many steps. We just need to do it faster. We need to do it better and more responsibly. And in terms of even despite doing all of this, we will still experience the effects that we are already seeing, right? So in that sense, we do need to develop better warning systems and predictive systems to alert us to extreme events that are impending. We need to prepare ourselves to face these kinds of events. So we're already seeing heat action plans that are being set up by several states and cities. These already have some level of guidelines and protocols on what to do, but what's definitely required is more awareness and sensitization to the masses and general public on how to face these kinds of events. Some of these heat action plans also have some long-term measures that have been envisaged, but they really need to be implemented. There needs to be investment in more resilient infrastructure, housing, buildings, more tree cover, and also things like resilient farming practices, etc. So all of this has to go in hand along with, of course, better lifestyle, something we are already seeing being promoted in the LIFE mission. But again, that everything has to be scaled up. Everything has to be at par with the kind of impacts we are going to see.
Right. And Dr. Pai, this also means, better forecasting. We need more science to anticipate certain events taking place.
Yeah, in fact, associated with this warming, we also likely to get more extreme rainfall events and extreme other weather events like cyclone, etc. And actually, as a result, we know that the predicting quantity of extreme rainfalls are already difficult. So this makes again more challenges to the prediction. So we have to improve our observational network, which already IMD is working on, and actually also improve our models to predict and capture this type of extreme events. And then also we need to better, as already other panelists said, resilience to these extreme events has to be improved, because the impact of though this global warming is in the global scale, its impact is in the local. So by understanding vulnerability of the local society, we will have to plan according to region. So because each region are totally different based on their population density or the infrastructure, urban, all that. So according to that, we may have to plan location to location or region to region.
All right, so plan locally, plan for our regions. But Arunabha, if we talk about, global effort, it does seem there's, these meetings that take place, there's a lot of noise and media around it. But in terms of achievement, if we can talk a bit about that, I'm still hopeful that we can come to more agreements and take more steps globally, for all countries combined.
Gargi, the climate negotiations happen over 2 weeks in a year. There are 50 other weeks in a year. And my focus would be on the 50 weeks that we are not negotiating, because honestly, the amount of effort that India is putting in building our renewable energy infrastructure, in industrial decarbonization, all of that has to also combine with the efforts we put in on resilience. And then India becomes an example for the rest of the world. So I think the global negotiations will continue. They will remain important. But what is most important is what we do at home. And I would just categorize it in 3 ways. One is the science, which Dr. Pai was also referring to. Our analysis at CEW suggests that 45% of India's landscape has already undergone unsustainable changes. We need now hyper-local assessments of how different types of climatic disasters will impact different communities. So that kind of scientific work is needed. But combined with that, policy also has to keep updating. For instance, heat waves are considered in what is called the local context, in terms of what a state government can do to use the funds from the disaster relief funds. Now, when you do that, you're limiting that fund allocation to just 10% of what the states can spend. Now, whereas cold waves can be treated as bigger disasters. So I think we need to have an upgrade in our policy as well. And finally, bring in the communities. The communities have to be part of not just the early warning system, but also the response measures, the heat shelters, etc., that can be created to protect the most vulnerable.
Right. So clearly, all states and the country as a whole need to now adjust to this new reality with the record temperatures expected over the next 5 years. Thank you so much all for joining us on the program this morning.